Hi, welcome to another Scrapbook Pal video. I'm Kara and I have a modified Lawn Fawn reveal wheel to share with you today. So I'm using Mice on Ice and a sentiment from You're Just My Type and pattern paper from Snow Day Remix and the reveal wheel die set. So one in the pattern paper, one in white, and I'll be using an outside-in stitch circle stackable, and then here's the other parts to the reveal wheel. I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 panel in white, and that I'm going to cut out with the Stitch Pond. And here are the little mice from Mice on Ice, the coordinating dies, and it's time to start stamping them out. So I'm only using the mice with the aerial view. So these two guys you see from above, and I'm using Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink to stamp them out. And I'm going to stamp each one out twice. So I'm just going to flip my paper over and stamp them once again. So they're all set and ready to color, but I am going to cut them out first. These are the coordinating dies, and I like to put a little bit of low tack tape on them to keep them in place while I cut them through the Big Shot die cutting machine. I'll be coloring with Copic markers today, and you can see I colored one up already, but I'm going to show you one of each mouse. So I'm starting with a C0, and I'm finding where I want my shadows. And I just map that out with the lighter color, and then I come in to the same area, those shadows, with my darker color. And I only go up to a C2 today for these mice, keeping them kind of light. And then I will blend that out with the C0. I find it easier to blend from dark to light when I first put down a layer of the lighter color. It also gives me a chance to change my mind if I didn't like where I put those shadows. All right, well now I'm coming in with the lightest, the C00, just to blend that out a little further. And then in the darkest areas, I'm going to put that C2 back in. Some of it got blended away when I blended it out. So I want to get just those edges, the crevices, the darkest. And then I can give them some pink cheeks with an R21 and pink in the ears and a little darker at the base of the ears with the R22 and in his nose. And then for the ears, I blend that in with the C0. And coming back to just darken up with the C22 and onto the hat. And this is an R29 and an R39. Just the 39 in the corners, and then blend that back out with the R29 into the rest of the hat. A pretty small area, really. And then a little bit with the C0. All right, so my next mouse, I'm working on him the same way. I'm deciding where I want those shadows, and I'm coming in with my light, the C0, and then I like where they are, so I'm going to come back to the same area with the C2, and we're seeing these mice from above, so I'm deciding that the face or the head is the lightest, and then as we go down the body, that gets a little darker. And I'm keeping those ice skates white, just because I want them to show up, and also a lot of times ice skates are white, so they have white skates, and they will all have red accessories, so their hats and their scarves. And I'm doing the ears and nose and cheeks the same way with this guy as I did with the other one, and giving it a little gray in the ear and darkening up the pink, and then onto that scarf. And again, it's such a small area, and you can see where I actually tip up the marker a little bit in the corners so that I have the top of the tip going in and then blending it out because it's such a small area. Now usually with the reveal wheel, we put a little piece in with it to cut out of the front, and that's where you see the message or the picture through this little piece. So when you put them together, you see just a little opening, but I want a big opening. So I'm going to use this outside in stitch circle, and I've got to decide where it's going to go. So I can eyeball it like that, or I can put it on the grid, use the grid and a ruler to kind of decide where it needs to be. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking the turning mechanism and I'm putting it right in the center, and I'm poking through the hole that's in that to decide where to put this circle, because I want it right over there. And so I'm going to use that little dot in the center and my ruler, and I know that it's 1.5 inches on each side from that dot. So I'm putting that circle right where it should be using my ruler, and it'll be in the right spot. So just having a ruler and a grid helps so much, although, like I said, you could eyeball it. All right, it's where I want it now, and the wheel will go right behind there. And now it looks like the ice is a rectangle. So I need to cut the white top panel into a pond shape. I used a template that I cut out of the same size as my panel, and I'll line that up so that the pond itself, I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't go beyond the pattern paper ice portion. So I want to make sure that it covers the circle well and that it doesn't go past the borders of the ice itself. So now that I know where I want that, I take off the little template and I will cut that with my die cut machine. And there it is. That's our white snow area around the pond. And before I start attaching things, putting the mechanism together, I want to stamp things out because it's so much easier to stamp when they are flat. So I'm going to have one of the little mice ice skating out the word happy. So I prepped the area with a Ranger anti-static pad, and then using Lawn Fawn clear ink, I stamped the word happy. And now I'm going to use some white embossing powder and sprinkle that on. This one is from Lawn Fawn, and just tap off the excess and then melt the powder with a heat tool. And now I see that I have that on my Misty, which I do not want. It could warp the Misty, so I lifted it up so that it was not going to hurt the Misty. All right, so now I'm putting on the next sentiment, and this will say winter, and I use a ruler to line up my sentiment in the Misty. It just bumps up nice against the side of the Misty, and I'm using Lawn Fawn Minty Fresh ink to stamp that out, and I'm going to stamp it twice to get a nice impression. So it will say Happy Winter, and then I'm using the snowflakes from the Mice on Ice set and just stamping them with a block, an acrylic block. And I also am going to use my Lawn Fawn Shammy, stamp Shammy, to clean them off. And I keep them in that little stamp Shammy container because it just works so well to keep the chamois damp, and also it doesn't make everything else on my work surface damp, which is what happened sometimes before I used this container. I really like the container. It's I didn't think I needed that, but I I really like it. Keeps it in one place, and I'm not getting things wet. All right, now that I have my snowflakes all stamped, it's time to put this wheel together. And so these are foam squares that I'm putting on the circle, making sure not to get near that hole. I'm modifying the way I'm attaching the reveal wheel because the center will be seen on the card. So I'm putting the brad through the front of the card, putting the second piece on there with the foam, but I'm not attaching that foam. I kept the liner papers on, and now I'm putting scrappy tape on the back of the small circle, and I will attach it to the white base. And I want to line it up, make sure I know exactly where I want that wheel to go. And so I take off that liner paper and I will slip it underneath, and just, there are some score lines on the wheel, and I'm lining them up with the circle that I die cut out and eyeballing it at this point to show where it's going to go, and there it is. So I put foam tape all around it, but not touching that wheel, and then I can put on the rest of the pond and just set that so that it's all lined up, and there's my wheel turning, and it's time to get the whole thing attached to a card. So this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card, and I'm deciding how I'm going to place the reveal wheel part on there, and I'm using that template again to decide where to cut open the area that needs to be available so that you can turn the mechanism. And using that template, I just drew out some lines with a pencil, and I'm cutting that away, and then I'll erase my pencil lines. And now it's right where I want it. So the next thing I need to do is stamp on the card, and I'm using my pencil to kind of indicate where I need to stamp, because this is the place that we want to stamp to show the person that they should do something. So again, with some Minty Fresh ink, I am stamping the sentiment that says "Turn me," and then I'll erase my pencil marks, and it's all set to go. I wanted to add the look of a snowbank around the pond, like they cleared out the area. So I'm using my Lawn Fawn clear ink, but it's kind of hard to get in there with a pad, so I'm using the embossing pen from Lawn Fawn and just coloring all around the edges. And then this is the textured white, and when it is heated up, it kind of puffs up, so it looks like snow. And I'm just doing it in sections, so I've got that to go all the way around, and now I'm heating this up, and I think you can see it on here, but it's just puffing up, and it looks so cool. It's like a snowbank around the pond, and I will go all the way around with this, and that will just kind of give it that finishing detail that I'm looking for. And here I am finishing up the last part of that. And now for the very important part, it's time to get those skaters on the ice. So I'm putting it all together the way it's going to look, and so I can put those mice where I want them, and I want his little skate to be right at the end of the word happy. And then I've got the other skaters going around in a circle, and I'm going to put them on with foam tape so they're just popped up a little bit. There's 1 and 2 and 3. All right, they're right where they should be, and so it's just a matter of putting the whole card together. So I'm taking a tape runner and putting adhesive on the back of the reveal wheel mechanism and placing that where it should go. And then I put some foam tape all around it so that when I put the pond on top, or the edges of the pond, it's going to be the same height as the rest of the reveal wheel. So I'll just line that up and press it down, make sure it's all sealed up, and it's ready to go. Well, a happy winter card is a great way to send a card if you missed out on the Christmas card giving. So I hope you are having a happy winter or summer, depending on where you live. I hope you enjoyed this modified reveal wheel card. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye!